Are you a fan of gritty superhero comics like The Boys, The Watchmen, and Invincible? If you answered yes, there's a new graphic novel that you will want to add to your collection. From author J.R. Dunbar, Saint, available on Amazon and jrdcomics.ca. In Saint, Jake Barker always wanted to be a superhero. Acting as a vigilante for years, one day he finally got his wish. Too bad he had to die for it. As the world's first superhero, he's finding that his new life is not all that it's cracked up to be. Out for vengeance. Will his abilities be enough, or will vengeance find him first? Saint is the story of a vigilante's death and rebirth as a superpowered being that leads to a vicious game of vengeance, trumping vengeance. Order your copy right now of Saint from author J.R. Dunbar on Amazon and jrdcomics.ca.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And please make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to this program on. In particular, my YouTube channel. Just search Brian Craig Show on YouTube. It'll come up. I not only upload our podcast on my YouTube channel, but I live stream every morning on the radio from 6 until 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, taking live calls from my radio listeners as well as those who are watching on YouTube. Brian Craig on YouTube. All right, well, today, Putin and Biden had this call. There's been buildup for days about this. Putin's on the move in the Ukraine, and they have all these aerial photos, which is total BS, by the way. And I'm of the belief that the entire Cold War was a big scam by the government. Remember President Eisenhower, beware the military-industrial complex. A lot of people made quadrillions of dollars. I know that's not a real number, but they made so much money you couldn't put a dollar number on it, dollar amount on it. The whole Cold War was to make a lot of people rich, okay? And the Soviet Union, like Russia today, is a third world country. They got a lot of land. That's a lot of emptiness with just, it's like Bolivia, most of it, okay? It's like Guatemala and Honduras, most of the country. And it always was that way. Not that the whole country is, but most of it is. Russia's not a threat. The Soviet Union was not a threat.
I think their only export is oil. And Biden is helping with that because he shut down our pipeline. And now Russia supplies all the oil to Germany, and that's their main export. I don't think they manufacture or export much.
Putin, who is a dictator, he's been in power for I don't even know how long now.
Last 5 presidents.
Well, no, but they have term limits over there. But somehow he's maintained.
He's been with the last 5 presidents.
Yeah, he should have been retired through term limits long ago. He still runs Russia. He's a dictator, and he's one of the richest men in the world. He's a multi-billionaire with a B, and he's a businessman dictator. And what Putin really cares about, he's a lot like Biden. Biden and Putin have a lot in common.
Yeah,
they're both corrupt public officials who are only holding public office so that they can enrich themselves. They got a common language there. They're both one and the same. And Putin isn't going to do, I'm not saying he's not going to go into the Ukraine, but here's the thing with the Ukraine, okay? The Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union. So Putin still believes that the Ukraine is part of Russia, okay? It would be like in this country if all of a sudden Florida decided, if Ron DeSantis, our great governor, if Ron DeSantis decided Florida was going to be its own country, the Florida Republic, I think any president, Biden, anyone, would make a move up in Georgia. And not Georgia in Russia. I'm talking about the Peach State, north of Florida. They'd have the military there ready to come in and take Florida back. That's how he views it. Like Abraham Lincoln said, the states couldn't leave the Union. That's how Putin views it. Putin's a businessman. Nothing's going on. But regardless of that, they've been building this call up all week. Biden's going to tell Putin like it is. And this senile old corrupt coot that we have that I like that. Old Coot. That's old. Where do I get that from? An old television show. That's an old time expression.
Yeah, it's in my, I'm thinking something the old Coot.
The old Coot. I don't know if anybody knows where that came from.
From some movie or from some show or maybe Beverly Hillbillies or something.
I don't know, but it fits. So I've been listening to 2-3 days. Oh, well, Russia's on the move, and when the President Biden has the phone call with Putin. So they do a Zoom call. They get on there, and Putin can barely contain his laughter because Biden gets on the Zoom call, starts talking. He's got his phone muted. He's got his microphone muted. No one can hear him. And I hear some Russian talking, and I think it's like, hey, this dingbat has his microphone off or something in Russian, they were saying. It did not display American strength and dominance and everything else. It showed that America is a laughingstock of the world, and Russia can do whatever the hell they want because Biden can't even use a phone on a Zoom call. And it was a disaster. In fact, it was such a disaster at the White House press briefing today. Jen Psaki didn't even do it. Some guy that I'd never seen before came out and did the press conference. So it's a complete disaster. It's all fake. Biden was never going to hold anyone accountable. And if you were to ask Biden any kind of question after the phone call with Putin, I would recommend this as the question. Like if I were to ask him, when is your meeting and phone call with Vladimir Putin? He may have forgotten that it even happened. He's so far gone. So anyway, the mainstream liberal media are going to spend the rest of today and the evening and tomorrow talking about the great American resolve. America's back.
Well, they
with
need
Joe
something
Biden.
to talk about. I mean,
but
every day
they're
they're of course. I mean, I don't believe half the stuff, even 3/4 of what I see on the news. It's all a dog and pony show, and they hype everything up, and they create a lot of situations that aren't even real. And the thing is that upsets me is there's a lot going on in the country. There are a lot of things they can report on, but they won't leave freaking New York City or Washington, D.C. They won't leave their little bubble and send reporters out and actually go report on stories. And when something exciting happens, they'll talk about it for 4 days until the next exciting thing happens. Yeah. They have to fill a lot of time, but if one thing occurs, they'll talk about it all damn day long. You just get different people talking about the same thing. There's no real news on the news. I've said this many times. It's a reality show. It's just it's there to be entertaining, not informative, and they want to keep you watching and keep you glued, and that is the main objective. I mean, that's just how it is.
It's called infotainment.
Infotainment, exactly. I mean, there's no real news anymore.
The biggest story,
it's a joke.
The biggest story in the news in the last couple of days is the fall of CNN and the exposure of CNN. There's been two things that have happened at CNN in the last few days. One is Fredo, right? Chris Cuomo and everything that happened with him. I'm not going to talk about him because you guys know he's been fired. That's great. Now there's been some other good stuff. Jussie Smollett testified in his trial yesterday. He's not doing as well as Kyle Rittenhouse did in his trial. And
not even close.
Jussie Smollett is just pouring his heart out about very strange things like going to a bathhouse with one of those brothers, and
he seems like a really troubled person
and everything else. And I like how the newspapers and the media keep saying Jussie Smollett says he went to a gay bathhouse in Chicago. Is there another kind of bathhouse?
No, I don't think so. No.
That's like when I love it when people say
straight people don't go to those things.
I hear people sometimes say Jewish rabbi. I'm like, is there another kind of rabbi?
Yeah.
So
or a Catholic priest. Well, I guess they do have Episcopalian priests.
You don't have to say gay bathhouse. Just assume
it's understood
that the bathhouse is gay. And one of the things that Jussie Smollett
straight people don't go to bathhouses, maybe massage parlors. But not bathhouses.
That's a different thing.
The massage parlors are for the straights. The bathhouses are.
Yeah,
for the
I
gays,
guess
maybe.
I don't know. I don't go to either. And
that's a good thing.
I've never been to either.
Same here.
No. I have had.
But you've been to a strip club.
Yeah, I have had a massage at the chiropractor. It was a chiropractor gave me a massage. It wasn't one of those things like the guy that owns the Patron. But anyway, the Jussie Smollett, he talked about a lot of strange things.
Yes, he did.
Including how Don Lemon tipped him off that the Chicago police were on to him. And
very interesting.
And Don Lemon got a tip from a Chicago police department person. I don't know if it was an officer or not. And then he immediately private texted Jussie Smollett and said, the cops are on to you. And what has been...
That seems like aiding and abetting.
Yeah, what's been revealed... Well, it's obstruction of justice. What's been revealed, it seems to me, this is what I think's been revealed. Something that we've suspected. And a lot of people, when these stories come up, they say, oh, I'm not surprised. I know. We know this.
That really bothers Brian, by the way.
Yeah, it does. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
If I say it at home, he jumps down my throat, too.
There's a lot of things that we suspect and believe, but every once in a while, we get evidence to back up our beliefs about something. And what we have with both Fredo Cuomo and Don Lemon is evidence that people have given under oath, under penalty of perjury, about how 2/3 of the CNN primetime lineup manufacture news and manufacture and drive news cycles as opposed to reporting the news. Right. They're creating the news, manipulating events to have news, obstructing justice, and
aiding and abetting
and different things. So this is not something that we all know this. There's no surprises here. CNN is about ready to collapse, and I've been telling people about this all week, and it's only Tuesday, so for 2 days. This is major. CNN is the mainstream liberal news source of record.
Yeah.
CNN does something, reports something, has a story, has a discussion, has a guest, and then after CNN does it, all the liberal media parrot what CNN does.
Well, and CNN was the first to do 24-hour. They were the pioneers. They were the first to have a 24-hour news. I remember when CNN came out. This was with Ted Turner. And they were going to do 24-hour news. And I remember my dad talking about it. Like, how are they going to fill 24 hours with 24-hour news? And it was a new thing. Like in the late 70s, early 80s. I can't remember. But this was with Bernard Shaw and, when they had real journalists. And they were the pioneers in this 24-hour news cycle. They were the first national network to have 24-hour news. And now they have become an absolute joke. I mean, think of all the people affiliated with CNN. Think it's perverts, criminals, scumbags. There's no credibility with these people.
Don Lemon has two things going on, right? He tips off Jussie Smollett that the police are onto him, which may be obstruction of justice. And he's got a guy who says that he touched him inappropriately. Don Lemon's got two things.
Put his hand down his pants.
See, before the rise of cable news,
I tell you, what a crew.
The news source of record was the New York Times.
Yeah.
Whatever the New York Times printed, all the other news regurgitated. That's changed and transformed into CNN. Whatever CNN reports, the rest of the media take it from there. And with CNN being exposed and brought down, that's going to change the 24-hour news cycle in this country, especially with new management coming in. And
do you think they're really going to get rid of Don Lemon now that they just got rid of Chris Cuomo? They're going to get rid of two guys in prime time in a week?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And it's easier now. It's easier now because they got rid of Cuomo and Don Lemon was using his position and resources at CNN to help Jussie Smollett continue as hate host.
Here's the one person they should get rid of. That's Jeff Zucker. They need to get rid of him because there's some serious problems at that network. And I'm still in shock they brought back Jeffrey Toobin after what he did was absolutely repulsive. There were women on that Zoom call that saw this, and they brought him back to CNN. I guarantee you that was Jeff Zucker's call. They're buddies. He has got problems. I mean, look what they got rid of Roger Ailes. Why can't they get rid of this guy? I mean, he is dragging down this network, and they really need to clean house as far as I'm concerned. There isn't, and I've asked this before, name somebody on CNN that has integrity and that is actually good and trustworthy. Name one person on that network that you can honestly say has some kind of integrity. Because I think they all lie to everybody all day long. And maybe once in a while, Jake Tapper has some integrity. Maybe once every 6 months, he has a moment of clarity and truth. Yeah. And I think Jake Tapper, out of all the people at CNN, is the only one with some journalistic credibility in my book. I think his problem is where he works. I think if you put him in a different environment, maybe he would be a little better than what he is. But everybody else is absolutely useless. And the dregs of society. I mean, these are scummy people. I'm not saying everybody's perfect at Fox. They've had their issues. And I think for some reason, these news centers have problems. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. But it seems lately, I mean, look at the commentators they have on CNN. Jeffrey Toobin, Michael Avenatti, Michael Cohen, Stormy Dan. These are scummy people. Why the hell are they on giving their opinion on things? Why are they on that network at all? That is scuzzy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to get rid of Don Lemon. They just got rid of Chris Cuomo. They're going to get rid of the second guy in prime time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's really
That's crazy.
He's really screwed up. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
From author Roger Schaefer comes the book COVID-26 Zombie, available on Amazon. This book was actually completed in late 2019, prior to a lot of the events that are occurring right now in today's world. This must-read book was intended to show how the 1% are in total control, and the 1% wanted everything, but at a cost that was never imagined. Yet, this book imagined it all. That dream of the perfect world, according to the 1%, a world which only the 1% matter. As for the remaining humans, they would have no rights or freedom, living in dystopia and under the complete control of the 1%. That didn't happen. Instead, mankind has created not one, but two new species that are Z and zombies. Z to a zombie is similar to a relationship of a dog to a human, since fear has been used to control humans since the beginning of time. Fear is the second most powerful tool to use against people. The only thing more powerful than fear is hope. Hope is the one and only thing more powerful than fear. COVID-26 Zombie from author Roger Schaefer is available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and audiobook. Order your copy right now. It's so important for kids to be proud of who they are, especially if they are dealing with a chronic medical condition. The book from author Julie Zamora, Patches, available on Amazon, is about a little boy who proclaims himself a superhero as he conquers and embraces his day-to-day life while struggling with the annoyance of extreme eczema. Patches is a story that shares experiences and struggles while also shouting from the rooftops that different is okay. This is a story of sharing and coming together, uniting, and being proud of who you are. Patches is inspiring and relatable. It's a story all kids can appreciate. Kids need to learn that not all kids are alike, but they still just want to be kids. This book is perfect for parents, grandparents, and teachers for classroom reading. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Patches from author Julie Zamora. How do you really see yourself? Are you living authentically? The book from author Lisa Deanna, A World Sold on Image, available on Amazon and most online booksellers, is a powerful guide for those who are ready and willing to stop living in a false definition of beauty and start living in truth. Most of what we have been taught about beauty was rooted in childhood and is wrong. In this inspiring guide to beauty, author Lisa Deanna makes a solid case for what real beauty is. She takes out the cliche, beauty is on the inside, and proves no one lacks beauty. We only lack the ability to see who we are authentically. Whether we realize it or not, most of us strive to be an image of what society deems as beautiful, and imitation is becoming our full-time job. While the author supports the importance of image, she knows from working in one of the most image-driven fields, cosmetics, that a flawless image is not enough to be beautiful, and reveals the powerful steps to live a life compromised of beauty. Order your copy right now. A World Sold on Image from author Lisa Deanna, available on Amazon and most online retailers.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. I want to just talk about this issue. We don't talk about this too much on the show. The trans athletes. There's a new story about a swimmer. This is in the Daily Mail. Moment trans U-Penn swimmer, age 22, absolutely destroys her rivals in women's freestyle event, winning by 38 seconds. Sparks fury by smashing two women's records 1 year after competing as a male. Liz Thomas smashed two U.S. swimming records at an Akron, Ohio contest. Thomas won the 1,650-yard freestyle in record time, beating her closest rival by 38 seconds. Video of the astonishing defeat was posted online. It goes on and on. She left other rivals floundering in a 500 freestyle.
Yeah, did you see her body?
Yeah.
It's like twice the size. She's like Michael Phelps.
Yeah. And it goes on. Some have voiced their anger at her swimming success, claiming it to be unfair. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't believe this person is transgender. This is what I believe, okay? I believe a lot of mediocre, average, or maybe even a little bit above average men that are in certain sports like this person, they can't win and be number one or number two as men, but if all of a sudden they're transgender, they can be number one and be world record holders.
Incredible.
As women. And, I know everyone likes to say, girls are just as good as boys and everything else, but there's women's sports and men's sports for a reason. Men are more athletic. The athletes, I mean, I'm sure women athletes are more athletic than I am, but I'm not an athlete. You take a world-class female athlete and a world-class male athlete. Look what's happening here. We got a mediocre guy who becomes a woman, and now he holds a world record and broke a world record on a dime in the women's sports. It's a con game that a lot of men are doing by becoming women and competing in women's sports. And this country is so woke right now. No one will call this con game out.
Well, I think you're right. I don't think it matters though what his motivation is, but what matters is if you are born male, okay, men are just physically stronger, taller. They have swimming especially, you have a longer arm reach. If you got somebody who's 6'2" and they have a longer arm reach because if you stretch out your arms
and bigger feet,
if you stretch out your arms, and this I learned from Da Vinci, and you take the measurement from the tip of your middle finger across to the other side of your middle finger, that's the length of your body. And if you're tall and you have, like you said, bigger feet, bigger hands, a bigger arm reach in the pool. Say you're doing the butterfly and your arms are like 6 inches longer on both sides than everybody else, and your shoulders are broader and you just have more muscle mass. Men have physiologically more muscle mass and less fat than women. That is science. That is the way they're built. It is not fair, no matter what his motivation is, but this seems to be tolerated for the most part. But what's going to happen is that this is anti-women's rights. So what's going to happen is these girls are going to say, well, why the hell am I going to bother competing?
Yeah.
If I don't have a chance in hell, I mean, I've never seen a swimmer beat another swimmer by 40 seconds. Usually it's by a nanosecond or 0.2 seconds. You've seen the Olympics. They all kind of come in at the same time, and it's like it's a split-second decision. They'll have a camera in the pool, and 2 or 3 will touch at the same time, and it's like within a half a second or whatever. This guy was ahead by 38 seconds of the second-place person.
Insane.
That shows you how unfair this is. It's crazy.
Yeah, and on the show the other day, we were talking about something that seems so trivial, and then after I thought about it more, it really scared me and upset me. This thing we were talking about with Jeff Probst on Survivor, who no longer will say, "Come on, guys." He said this on the first episode of this season Survivor.
Yeah,
he will no longer say, "Come on, guys," because guys is too gender specific and leaves out other genders. So he's going to say, "Come on, everyone," or I'm
a girl. I've never been. When I was in a sorority, I lived with 70 girls. We'd say, "Come on, guys," all the time. Well, nobody cared. It was no big deal.
Now he's going to say, "Come on, everyone." But what if there's Siamese twins? Are they left out? I mean, it's so. And
it was stupid.
We were talking. I want to talk about this again because I know we mentioned this on the show the other day, but it really has been bothering me. So I want to just talk about it for a moment. So when Jeff Probst first he asked this question of the contestants, I was very confused. I was confused because I didn't quite understand what he was asking. It was so strange.
It was strange.
He says when the teams come to compete, Jeff Probst says, "Come on, guys," and he asked them if he should come up with a new phrase to say because it leaves out of the genders. And at first they said, "No, that's fine." And then later in the game, one of the gay men, he's gay, he's a flight attendant, he's married to a man. He says, I think you should change that.
Meanwhile, he's a guy.
Yeah.
He's not transgender. He's a guy. He identifies as a guy, but he has issue with the word guy.
He says it leaves out women and others. And guys,
stupid.
In that context, guys does not mean a male. It means a group of people. But
exactly.
And what got me really concerned about this.
They do that in Spanish too,
Yeah.
When you have a group of guys and girls, it's ellos. It defers to the masculine.
Yeah.
So are they going to have issues with that too?
I guess.
In Hispanic or in Spanish language?
Kathy and I, we're fans of Survivor. I know some of you guys aren't, but we're fans of Survivor, and we have the Paramount app. And the reason we have the Paramount app is because that's the only way you can watch these new Star Trek shows. I'm a big Star Trek fan. And they have a few seasons of the Australian version of Survivor, which are recent seasons. They have the 3 most recent seasons of Australian Survivor.
Way better.
And we're watching Australian Survivor. They are not woke in Australia. I know we have a lot of listeners in Australia.
No, they're
so
tough.
You guys,
they're tough as hell.
They're like Americans like used to be
in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. And this country, the United States, they have spent so much time feminizing men, villainizing men. Is it demasculating men? They're turning men into women. And I'm
There's
concerned
a reason
about
for that, Brian.
They're destroying our country.
This is
That's
a calculated. This is not by accident. This is a calculated effort. I wouldn't be surprised if China was behind this. I know that sounds crazy, but the left are China's lackeys. We all know that. This is a calculated effort to feminize men in this country, to take away the rights of men. And it really started with the abortion issue back in the 70s, where they basically took away the rights of the father completely. And now you see women talk about abortion, and Jennifer Aniston was like, if you don't have a uterus, then you don't have a say. Well, I don't have a uterus anymore, so I don't have a say either.
Your uterus does, though.
Well, it's ridiculous. I'm a woman, but I don't have a uterus anymore, but I'm still a woman. I had a hysterectomy.
Oh, you can't have an opinion.
I guess not.
No
but
opinions.
Men, it's their kid too. They should have every right to decide what happens. The woman's just an incubator for 9 months. How long is the average lifespan? 78 years? That's a fraction of your life. The woman is just the incubator. She happens to house the baby that's developing. But once that baby's out of that womb, that baby belongs to both parents. And it's ridiculous. But this feminization of men and taking away the rights of men, particularly white men and alpha males, they're really making them, it's not a coincidence that they're feminizing men at the same time as villainizing men, villainizing masculine men. You see on TV now, like you say on Discovery and other shows, Survivor, how they're making anything masculine or manly is like a bad thing. And it's either completely ignored or it's villainized. The white, they're making men, especially white men, like dangerous.
Yeah.
That is not an accident. There's a reason they're doing all this.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in the military. And I'm telling you, I know it sounds nuts.
Yeah.
I think China's behind this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're using the liberals to make this crap happen.
I know this sounds probably very trivial to some people, but if you think about what we're saying, tomorrow I think it'll weigh on you. This feminization they're doing of men is it's very frightening.
There's a purpose
for the future of this country. Like I
toxic masculinity.
I was watching Star Trek Discovery, new Star Trek show. There's not hardly a man in the show. They're background characters, and the men in the show are all they're very emotional, like women. They're not like men, and that's how they portray men in television and things now. And it's really bad. Now, I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program, and our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout out on each and every episode. So the names you're going to hear right now, these are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, Rick, Rich, Nick, Dee, Pamela, and Jacqueline. And if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this and every episode. And the direct link is patreon.com/realbriancraigshow. patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. And there's also a direct link on my website, briancraigshow.com.
Yes, we'll be sending out Christmas cards to our Patreon.
Yeah, that's right. We have them all ready to go. Just gotta mail them. And if you become a Patreon supporter, there's a lot of perks there to becoming one. You get a commercial-free edition of each and every podcast episode. We have a special private Marco Polo group just for Patreon supporters where we can communicate. And through the Patreon page itself, you can communicate directly with us and send us things. In fact, yesterday we were reading through the article about the Michigan shooter and his parents. That was from one of our Patreon supporters had sent us that article.
Get more access.
Yeah, that's right.
To us.
That's right. So it's, again, there's a link in
whether you want it or not.
There's a link in the description of the episode. And again, the website address, patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. All right, we're going to take a quick break and be right back.
Have you wanted to get involved in investing but didn't know how or even where to begin? Then visit ExoticExpansion.com. ExoticExpansion.com offer financial education and tools to help users just like you grow financially. And don't worry if you're busy at work. They will send you stock signals through text and Discord, so you just follow their calls on when to buy and sell. It's that easy. They offer monthly and yearly membership levels to fit your budget. Membership includes one-on-one coaching, full-time advice, and stock calls. There's a members area where you can view their weekly picks, have access to their top 20 verified stock picks that always are updating, as well as a net worth tracker, and there's a lot more too. ExoticExpansion.com's goal is to provide you with the education that will enable you to achieve your financial goals. ExoticExpansion.com also have an app that's available in the Android store. ExoticExpansion.com. Crypto, stocks, Discord, tech signals, long and short-term trading, value investing, options, and financial education. It's all at ExoticExpansion.com. Imagine if you could combine your love of crypto with just about any vanity or lifestyle theme. Well, now you can at StellarShop.org. Stellar Shop brings themes to life in cryptocurrency and is the originator of vanity and lifestyle money in the new and exciting world of cryptocurrency. Align your money with causes you care about, like dolphins and sea turtles or anything in between. From Woodstock to medbeds, they have over 100 to choose from, so you can buy, sell, trade, or swap crypto on the Stellar XLM network. Stellar Shop also has over 20 charity themes that benefit from your usage. Grab your favorite Stellar wallet and join the revolution and the future of money through blockchain quantum finance. Stellar Shop also sets up custom-made business crypto and payment systems for any business. Get in on the crypto craze, and maybe you can be the one telling that next crazy crypto story. Visit StellarShop.org today for vanity and lifestyle crypto assets. That's StellarShop.org. There's no doubt, today more than ever, we all need a little uplifting. Times are scary, and the world can seem lonely and frightening, but God is always present. God loves us and wants us to know He is here and always there when we need Him. The Warriors for Christ podcast seeks to uplift, edify, and encourage you to be the light and salt in a dark and tasteless world. They have new episodes weekly. Be sure to subscribe and share the Warriors for Christ podcast with your friends and family. Find the Warriors for Christ podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Podcast, and on their website, warriorsforchrist.podomatic.net. That's the number 4, warriorsforchrist.podomatic.net. Warriors for Christ, letting the Bible speak and teach for itself.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I have exciting news. I am so excited about this. I just read this in Newsmax. James Rosen is joining Newsmax as the chief White House correspondent. He's replacing Emerald Robinson. I like Emerald. I'll miss her, but James Rosen is amazing. Remember, he was with Fox News. He was the guy that Obama was spying on.
I don't even remember him leaving Fox News.
Remember, they had that thing where somebody said he was sending inappropriate pictures or whatever, some stupid thing like that. See, Newsmax is doing what I've said along. They're taking the Fox rejects and they're going to rebuild their
network.
network.
James Rosen's a reject.
No, he's not a reject at all. I think he's amazing. It says here, Newsmax announced today that veteran Washington reporter James Rosen will join the network as chief White House correspondent. His move to Newsmax, the nation's fourth highest rated cable channel, marks an exciting new chapter in a singular journalism career. He was a top correspondent at Fox News and Sinclair Broadcast Group over the last 2 decades. He reported from the White House, State Department, blah, blah, blah. He is an amazing reporter.
Yeah.
And Fox cut him loose because I think there was some inappropriate
Really? I don't remember any of that.
pictures or whatever. That happened. That's what people do. I don't care anymore about that stuff. But I guess he's replacing Emerald. I like her, but I guess they cut her
Well, they
loose.
got rid of Emerald Robinson. I like Emerald Robinson a lot.
But he's fantastic.
And they got rid of, a lot of people have not still gone over to Newsmax TV. Now, I flip between Newsmax and Fox. Most of Newsmax I love. The only person on Newsmax TV that I do not care for is that Bellows guy. What's his name?
No, Bob Sellers.
Bob Sellers.
Yeah,
I don't know why I keep calling him Bellows. Bob Sellers.
He's got to go.
I don't like Bob Sellers. He does the show with Heather Childress, who's spectacular. I do not like Bob Sellers. Bob Sellers is the guy who walked off the live interview when he was interviewing Mike Lindell.
He's rude. He's rude and nasty, and I know Heather doesn't like him.
He seems like he's got hemorrhoids all the time. He just seems like he's in pain and bothered a lot. He's got to go. He's not pleasant. He should not be on TV. But other than Bob Sellers, I love everyone at Newsmax, in particular Greg Kelly, who I think has the best show. The guy, though, that comes on after Greg Kelly, Stitchfield, he is very, very good.
And the guy at night, 10 o'clock, Rob
he's good
Schmidt,
too.
he's fantastic.
He's very good, but they're up against Tucker
problem.
and stuff. That's a tough thing. But you guys really should give Newsmax TV a chance.
You can get the app. You can watch them on YouTube. They really are. I know they're obsessed because the guy gave money to the Clintons. Well, Trump gave money to the Clintons too.
Okay, let me talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up because
Trump gave them money too and invited them to his wedding.
Christopher Ruddy, who founded Newsmax long before they had TV, and Christopher Ruddy was the main conservative reporter exposing the Clintons. Before Drudge, before Breitbart, before anyone. In fact, he was the one, Chris Ruddy, the founder of Newsmax, who lives right here in Florida, not far from us, Kathy.
That's right.
Chris Ruddy was the one that got a hold of the Arkansas State Troopers and first reported on little Danny Williams, who is the son of Bill Clinton's with the black prostitute in Arkansas, and many other stories. Chris Ruddy was the first that I remember reporting on the Vince Foster suicide. The scandal with Vince Foster, people think, they say that the Clintons killed it. No, what people suspect is that Vince Foster killed himself at the White House and the Clintons had his body moved to the park so that it wasn't in the White House. I don't know if that's true or not. Chris Ruddy, though, was reporting on this stuff long
I bet
ago.
That's not true.
I don't know.
That seems pretty fantastical to me.
Oh, no, not back then. The Clintons were.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, they were gangsters, man. They were gangsters.
A lot of people they know end up dead, though. But
Chris Ruddy.
Strange.
But Chris Ruddy, okay, so he, without anyone realizing it, he put together Newsmax TV and got it on almost every cable system in America. And and they got revealed because people got turned off of Fox News. You guys know what happened and went to Newsmax. People flipped from Fox to Newsmax, I think, about a year earlier than Chris Ruddy planned. I think Chris Ruddy was not finished getting Newsmax on all these cable outlets, and then they blew up in popularity. So, and Newsmax Newsmax had been on TV for many years, and I didn't watch it, and not many people did because they had filler programming on that was unwatchable. And then on election night, when I flipped over to Newsmax, was the first time I had watched Newsmax TV in a long time.
They have some real stars over there.
Yeah, and I was blown away at how high-end it was and how it had been transformed. I had no idea. So Chris Ruddy, I've known of Chris Ruddy since I've been doing talk radio, okay? Almost. And he's a good guy. And this business about him donating to the Clinton Foundation, what I would imagine happened with that is Chris Ruddy, to get himself on all of these cable systems, he bought his way into that club, kind of fooled them. He fooled everybody and got Newsmax on all of these cable outlets.
Just watch
it
for a week. Give it a week.
Chris Ruddy is no Clintonista.
And watch the prime time instead of Fox.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know a lot of you say you don't watch Fox, but I know you do. Okay.
How can you not?
Exactly. Everybody watches Tucker,
and I don't watch MSNBC.
I would watch Eric Bolling at 4. He's in a tough spot because 4 o'clock is. I even forget he's on half the time. 4 o'clock is a tough time to. I would imagine that it's not like a great time for news. A lot of people are at work or busy doing other things, preparing dinner or things like that. So 4 o'clock's a tough spot. But if you can watch Eric Bolling, definitely watch from 7 o'clock through 11. You got Greg Kelly, Stitchfield. You got Rob Schmidt. He's fantastic. And there's another guy in there, isn't there? I can't remember. But they have Chris Salcedo during the day. He's great. But I would definitely check it out just for a week, like 7 to 11. Give it a chance. It's not as glossy as Fox. They don't have the big budget, but it's really good.
They will.
And let me tell you, Greg Kelly not only has got great producers, he is funny as hell. He's a little kooky, but let me tell you, he points out things that everybody's thinking. He goes there. Okay. Mm-hmm. That guy goes there. He's fantastic. He's like my favorite guy on TV.
Last night, Sean Spicer has this show at night too. And he had President Trump on. It was a very good interview.
Oh, really?
Actually,
see, I don't like Sean, but it was good.
Yeah, it was a very good interview. I watched it this morning. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Are you looking to add a little flair to your home or office? Then check out the satellite map print wall decor of the Banks Peninsula in New Zealand at Pixel Maps on Etsy.com. Pixel Maps is all one word. Pixel Maps on Etsy offer very unique wall art decor of places all over our Earth. These are really amazing pictures of places like Siberia, Greenland, the Atlantic Ocean, and many more locations. The founder of Pixel Maps is Eugenia, who's a geographer, and she sees the world in a different way. These images were created with data from NASA and the European Space Agency. They will fit perfectly in your office, living room, bedroom, or any space that needs a new look. Are you an explorer or know someone who is? At Pixel Maps on Etsy, you will find incredible wall decor that's unique, beautiful, and are great conversation pieces. When you visit Pixel Maps on Etsy, make sure to take a look at the satellite map canvas of the Banks Peninsula in New Zealand. That's Pixel Maps, all one word, on Etsy.com. When it comes to Christmas, having the right tree is so important. After all, it's the centerpiece of your holiday decorations, and there's nothing like a Christmas tree from Pennsylvania. The Etsy shop, Christmas Trees Delivered, that's Christmas XMAS, deliver fresh cut trees directly to you from their tree farm in Pennsylvania. The trees are delivered healthy, lush, and smelling just like Christmas. Various sizes are available, and each tree comes in a well-wrapped box, complete with tree food and a personal note from the owner. There's no need to search for that perfect tree. All you have to do is visit Etsy.com/shop/Christmas Trees Delivered. That's XMAS, and pick out your favorite. They'll do the rest. Do you want to send a tree to someone you care about? They'll take care of everything for you. Etsy.com/shop/Christmas Trees Delivered. That's Christmas XMAS. Etsy.com/shop/Christmas Trees Delivered. Merry Christmas. Everyone loves sweatshirts. They're comfy, soft, and cozy. If you're looking for adorable sweats with cute graphics and fun messages, you need to check out Operation Kindness Art on Etsy. That's all one word. They have sweatshirts for dog lovers, bridal parties, and brides, as well as religious-themed sweats, Christmas, and more. The designs are sweet with pastel colors, and the sweatshirts are made of soft fabrics with a classic fit. These sweats are great for yourself or as a gift. They're handmade and unique, and they're perfect to keep you warm in the colder times of year, promoting kindness through slogan sweats for all sizes. Operation Kindness Art on Etsy.com. It's all one word. Operation Kindness Art on Etsy.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Now, as we're doing this podcast, it is December 7th, of course, Pearl Harbor Day, which is pretty much almost all forgotten these days. And a lot of people are talking today about something that used to be wackadoodle people. And that was the conspiracy behind the Pearl Harbor attack. And Jack Posobiec had a tweet today. I'll just read this to you that we'll talk about it a little bit. Why did D.C. refuse to listen to the intel officers telling them that the entire Japanese fleet was on its way to Hawaii? Now, when I was a kid growing up, I used to hear about the Kennedy conspiracy, and I used to hear about FDR knew about Pearl Harbor, and I always thought that was insane. And now that we've been through what the political establishment and the deep state have done to the greatest president this country has ever had, Donald Trump, I believe it.
Question everything you've learned, honestly. Question everything.
The Pearl Harbor attack never made sense to me. A lot of people don't know why the Japanese did it. I just tell you quickly, and then I'll tell you.
Yeah, it seemed
I'll tell you
weird.
some things that make me think that it was a setup and FDR knew. The reason the Japanese attacked the United States is the United States was at that time, just like we were when President Trump was in office, we were the number one producer and exporter of oil in the world. Okay, we were the number one producer and exporter of oil in the world, just like when President Trump was in office. And we could be again, but they shut everything down. But anyway, we had an oil embargo against Japan because they invaded China, and we had an oil embargo against them. And they attacked us to try to, I guess, in some strange attempt to get us to lift the oil embargo. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But Franklin Roosevelt wanted America to get us into the Second World War for two major reasons. One, he wanted to help England, and we were helping them a little bit with materials, the Lend-Lease and all that, but we weren't involved militarily, and England was on the verge of collapse. And the other thing, the Great Depression was still very much so a very serious reality in 1941. The New Deal, most of the New Deal was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. The New Deal didn't bail us. I know they tell us in school that he saved the country and got us out of the Great Depression because of the New Deal. That is not true. We got out of the Great Depression through the economic stimulus this country got through the military buildup of the Second World War. So it
sounds like he needed a catalyst.
Yeah. So if it was not for the Second World War, the Depression may well have lasted until 1960.
Possible.
Pearl Harbor. Okay, here's the thing about Pearl Harbor. And this is an interesting thing about Pearl Harbor, okay? Pearl Harbor, right? Big defeat. And then not long after that, we had a huge military victory against the Japanese Navy at the Battle of Midway, shortly after Pearl Harbor. When they attacked Pearl Harbor, those ships that were hit in Pearl Harbor and sunk, I know there were a lot of good men there, okay? Although there was a larger loss of American life on 9/11 than at Pearl Harbor. But I know that a lot of American boys died there, and it was a terrible thing. But the ships that were in the port were junk. They were outdated antiques, basically from the First World War and just beyond.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were rust buckets that were out of date. Our high-tech naval vessels were our aircraft carriers. And have any of you ever thought about this, that the aircraft carriers, they say the whole Pacific Fleet was docked at Pearl Harbor? That's not true. That's urban legend. The aircraft carriers, which were new and advanced, and the most advanced new way to fight wars, not through battleships shooting at each other, were all at sea and were not hit or sunk. That's why we won Midway with our aircraft carriers, although they all did not make it through the the Battle of Midway, but we won. So I never believed this until Trump, and I saw what they did.
And you see what's going on now.
So yeah, and they had the way they were collecting intelligence back then. They made a big change not long before Pearl Harbor. Okay. And I know a lot of you know this, but I think a lot of people don't, especially listeners of this program that are outside of the United States. the military intelligence was done between the Army and the Navy back then. There was no Air Force. Air Force was part of the Army, and we didn't have everything. We didn't have a CIA and all that we have now. And so Army and Navy intelligence, they collected information, and they cut the president out of the chain of information. The president was not given the top secret information. In fact, they had a list of people who had clearances that would get information, and President Roosevelt was taken off the list. They said for security reasons. I think it was for plausible denial for Roosevelt not to have any knowledge.
Well, I agree. And my mom's third husband, he was in World War II. He was older than my mom, and he joined when he was 16. And he said everybody thought that Roosevelt knew and that it was on purpose, and he let it happen. He said everybody thought that back then.
Yeah. So I very much believe that now. I never did.
Would you hold anything past the government now?
No, I never believed this before. I really didn't. But
I've
now
been to Pearl Harbor. You need to go. I went when I was 20, and I really I didn't know too much about Pearl Harbor. I mean, I knew what I learned in school. But we went out, we took the boat. You could take the boat out to the Arizona, and there's like a platform you walk across, and it's right over the ship. And it's really eerie because you're walking on this like platform that's enclosed. You've seen it's like the white thing that goes across. That's on top of the Arizona, and you look down and you see the top of the ship, and it's like not far from you. It's like right below like maybe 5 feet below the water surface. And I was there with my dad, and he says, there's guys in there. There's skeletons. There's guys that buried with that. But the thing that was amazing, it's beautiful there when you're in Hawaii, and the weather's great. And Pearl Harbor's really big. It's a huge museum. And they have the kamikaze torpedoes that they have some there. You can look inside. They were really tiny. And you could see where it was just a steering wheel. And that was basically it. They dropped them out of the planes, and they had like a few controls to go right into the ship. Yeah. And they, died with it. But what I was really surprised about when I went was I could not believe how many Japanese people were there. I mean, it was about
tourists.
It was about 3/4 of the tourists were Japanese. And I remember, now I was just young and stupid, and this was not that long after World War II. This was in 1990. So it's like 50 years later. Now it's been 80 years. But I remember saying to my dad, I was like, why are there so many Japanese? I'm like, don't they feel bad that does their country cause this? Why are they here? Looking at this, taking pictures. They all had cameras.
They're reliving the glory days.
Taking pictures in front of I saw a bunch taking pictures in front of the kamikaze torpedo. Yeah. In front of this. And it upset me a little bit. Now I wouldn't care as much, but I was like, is this appropriate? And that was really what stuck with me. But if you have any chance to go, it's really amazing.
It's like American tourists that go to Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Do American tourists go there?
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. And take pictures? They go to Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Not like, no way. Not like this.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. My travel involves visiting the nations of the world through Epcot in Orlando. I don't really.
Well, you and Emily, I can't really travel anymore, but you and Emily should go to Hawaii at some point. Hawaii's really nice, but you grew up in Florida. It's not that different other than the few mountains, which is nice. But Pearl Harbor really is amazing.
The thing about the Pearl Harbor
very
conspiracy, look at how Bush and Cheney lied us into the war in Iraq.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of money to be made. And if you think about it, what I said about the Depression, the New Deal did not pull us out of the Depression that the war did. And there's many people, there are some economists who believe that the Great Depression really didn't end until about 1950 or 1955. Yeah. But that's how bad things were in the Great Depression. I don't think people realize because you didn't have the social welfare that we have today.
Maybe Roosevelt felt we need to go to war to get out of this. Maybe he wanted it to happen because he thought we need to go to war to get out of this mess we're in.
Well, when we were young in school, when we were in school in the 70s and 80s, what they used to teach kids in school in this country, they don't teach them this anymore, but we were taught by that World War II era generation. They used to say that, and I'm not saying that I believe this, but I'm saying people used to teach this to children in school, in public school, and in college, and historians used to talk about this, and economists used to talk about this. I haven't heard this in a long time. They would say capitalism is great, but the one flaw of capitalism is that you need a war every 40 years to keep the capitalistic economy going. And that's a reference to World War II getting us out of the Depression. Now, one last thing I wanted to mention: Ilhan Omar and Lauren Boebert. Okay, Lauren Boebert made a very funny joke about Ilhan Omar, and they've been going after her now for a week or two. And and Ilhan Omar said today that Nancy Pelosi is going to strip Lauren Boebert of her committee assignments over her joke about her in the elevator. Okay, and I believe that is going to happen.
Really?
And Kevin McCarthy will probably go along with it like he did with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
What about Eric Swalwell? They're not going to strip him for sleeping with Chinese spy?
Exactly.
Give me a break.
No, they gave him, they promoted him.
So they're going to strip her because she told a joke.
But here's the deal, okay? They're not going after Lauren Boebert for the joke. They're going after Lauren Boebert because she made a comment on the floor of Congress about, and she's done this many times, about Ilhan Omar's first marriage and everything involved in that. You guys know what I'm talking about.
They want to squash that.
They don't
narrative.
like her talking about that. And this joke, she just gave them an excuse. And I saw last week Lauren Boebert was on Fox News with, I just forgot her name, the woman that's on at night on Fox News. Comes on after him. Laura Ingraham had Lauren Boebert on, and she said what I'd been saying. She said, "You're new to this. They're after you. Exactly. They hate you. Right. You can't give them a sword to use against you." And she's like, "Well, I know that now."
Yeah, but she's just inexperienced.
Yeah, she's inexperienced.
Yeah,
so
amateur mistake.
You know what? Let Nancy Pelosi do this, because what it's going to do is get Lauren Boebert to get out there and talk more about her first marriage, and that's why they really are going after her.
Well, and it'll get her reelected for sure. It'll make her a hero in her district. Are you kidding me to get Nancy Pelosi to get removed off your committees?
Take her off the committees as long as she keeps running her mouth about the truth, Lauren Boebert. She's a freshman member of the House of Representatives. Her position on the committees is
I think
ceremonial,
she made a mistake
basically.
by apologizing.
Big mistake.
Never apologize to the left.
Big
and Marjorie
mistake.
Taylor Greene has made that same mistake too. Never apologize to the left. Tell them to go screw themselves.
Well,
and I'm telling you, because an apology is never enough for these people. When you apologize, you're admitting you did something wrong, and they want more.
Yeah.
Now she apologized to her. Now she wants her thrown off her committees. Apologies are never enough for these people. You just open the door to other things.
What Lauren Boebert, if I was one of her advisors, I would tell her get off the committees, and hit the campaign trail, because she's up for re-election like every other member of the House, and scream at the top of your lungs at every event about that marriage issue with her. You'll be all over the news, and it'll get out there.
That's right.
So let them have their little lap of minor victory on this, and you get at them that way. Well, listen, we're all out of time, but we will be back next time. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
From author Jatika Six Colors Gibbs comes your next must-read book, Until Now, available on Amazon. Until Now is a book about the first 25 years of the author's life. It includes childhood trauma, abuse, and the author being forced to hide their true self, being abandoned, and many, many other things. The author's hope is to reach readers that can relate and let them know that they are not alone in their trauma. They are not at fault for the terrible things that's happened to them. They are not victims, but are survivors, and together we can get through anything. Author Jatika Six Colors Gibbs has been writing poetry since childhood, and Until Now includes the author's life story, but also includes related poetry between chapters. Until Now, from author Jatika Six Colors Gibbs. Order your copy right now on Amazon.